Welcome, and thank you for joining us at the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Houston this morning. I'm Music Director Mark Vogel. Our music department shines in today's special music service, The Wide Universe. Through music and readings, we explore the wonders of our earth and the wider universe, which is a perfect introduction to our May sermon series on humanism. We hope you find inspiration in beautiful music performed by the Sanctuary Choir, our church musicians, and some very special guest performers. For those of you new to our congregation or our online services, I invite you to continue watching after the benediction to hear more about the living tradition that is Unitarian Universalism. We now invite you to hear our call to worship.
Sound and silence, silence and sound. Together, the spaces between each. Sound, then silence. Silence, then sound. Sound with jagged edges. Sound soft like butter. Sound sharp and swift. Sound long and slow. Forms music, an infinite variation stemming from the great expansive possibilities that we humans are born with, the ability to bring more beauty into the world. This Sunday, this day of music, this celebration, let us hear the sound and the silence, and in doing so, let us lift up our human capacity to make a more beautiful world. Come, friends, let us worship together.
Celebremos compartiendo nuestras vidas, encendiendo esta luz.
Please join me in the spirit that some call prayer and others name meditation. Open yourself to the wonders and mysteries of the world. Open yourself to compassion and empathy. Take one breath. Take another. Center yourself. This past Saturday was May Day, International Workers' Day, a time for celebrating labor and the possibility of creating a more beautiful world. And so, I offer this prayer. O Spirit of life, that some of us call God and others name as the highest aspiration of the human heart, this year, in this time, let us remember the truth that so much of what we have in this world has come through the shared efforts, the collective labors of all who work. Let us remember that work takes many forms: caring for children, teaching future generations, making dinners, growing food, sweeping streets, cleaning garbage, working in laboratories, distributing vaccines, laboring in hospitals, writing words, keeping accounts, offering leadership. In this remembrance, let us recall that all labor has dignity, and that it is only because of the work of others that each of us can thrive. There is power when we come together to cooperate, and there is a great truth to our lives. We need each other to survive. Hearing these words, may we lift up the sacred, experience the holy, and do what we can to work together to celebrate labor and bring more beauty into the world. May the congregation, absent in body, but present in spirit, say Amen. We pause now together to lift up that which sits heavy and light on our hearts. We lift up Kathy Kennedy. Her brother died earlier in April. We send her and her family much love during this difficult time. We also lift up Carol Burris, who has been out this past week for a planned surgery. We send her love and hopes for a quick recovery. I invite you now to say the name or bring to mind those you wish to be held by the loving embrace of this religious community. In this great cloud of witness and memory, amid this beloved community, we hear these names and hold them in our hearts. Pause in awe and wonder of the mystery that is life, the spirit of love, in the spirit of hope, and in the spirit of compassion. I invite each of you to enter into a time of silent prayer, meditation, or reflection.
This morning, our offering will be shared with Casa, Juan. We want to take a moment and let our congregation know about the new way to choose our shared offering partners. we've formed a multi-campus team that will review applications for shared offering partners. You can go to our website and find the application for consideration under the Shared Offering tab. The team will review applications for current and future shared offerings. We welcome congregational applications as well as potential organizational partner apps. We are excited to introduce Casa Juan Diego as our shared offering partner for the next 3 Sundays. Casa Juan Diego was founded in 1980 following the Catholic worker model of Dorothy Day and Peter Marin to serve immigrants and refugees and the poor. From one small house, it has grown to 10 houses. Casa Juan Diego publishes a newspaper, The Houston Catholic Worker, 4 times a year to share the values of the Catholic worker movement and the stories of the immigrants and refugees uprooted by the realities of the global economy. Casa Juan Diego is a local grassroots organization that is in alignment with our UU principles. They are doing global work in a local context. Our regular Sunday morning offering collection invites us to weave a tapestry of love and action. We ask you to give generously. An offering will now be gratefully received.
Our first reading is Nothing Nothinged Itself for Me as Well by Wisława Szymborska. Nothing nothinged itself for me as well. It's truly turned itself inside out. Where did I find myself? From head to toe among the planets, not even remembering how it was for me not to be. Oh, my dear, that I met here and fell in love with here. I can only imagine, with my hand on your shoulder, how much emptiness is allotted us on the other side. How much silence there for one cricket here. How much meadow lacking there for a tiny leaf of sorrow here. And the sun after darkness, like reparations in a drop of dew, for such deep droughts there. Starry helter-skelter, here the other way around, stretched over curvature, weight, friction, and motion. A break in infinity for the limitless sky. A relief from non-space in the form of a swaying birch. Now or never the wind moves a cloud, for the wind is exactly what doesn't blow there. And a beetle steps onto a path in the dark suit of a witness on the occasion of a long wait for a short life. But it just so happens that I am with you, and I really see nothing ordinary about it.
Our second reading is Where Everything is Music by Rumi. Don't worry about saving these songs, and if one of our instruments breaks, it doesn't matter. We have fallen into the place where everything is music. The strumming and the flute notes rise into the atmosphere, and even if the whole world's harp should burn up, there will still be hidden instruments playing. So the candle flickers and goes out. We have a piece of flint and a spark. This singing art is sea foam. The graceful movements come from a pearl somewhere on the ocean floor. Poems reach up like spindrift and the edge of driftwood along the beach, wanting. They derive from a slow and powerful root that we can't see. Stop the words now. Open the window in the center of your chest and let the spirit fly in and out.
We have fallen into that place where everything is music. Here we are at that place where everything is music. Well, almost. Truthfully, we are here now at that moment, or more accurately, embedded in those strings of ones and noughts which cohere to convey my voice to your ear when we come to our annual spring music service. And everything is not quite music. Interlacing our selection of digital choral compositions, keyboard stridings, and solo vocalists are my words. They counterpoint the notes in an effort to explicate our message. The capacity to create beauty is a human and humanistic magic. Envision the composer, astride her bicycle, sitting in front of his grand piano or strolling the streets, shadows cast by lush oaks shading their eyes from the sun. Wherever you picture them, there they are, imagining the music. Does it drip to them, one stuttered note at a time? Or does it arrive as an entire musical mosaic, verse, chorus, bridge, and possible coda, that is then translated into guitar strums, drum beats, black notes on white sheets, or saxophone licks? I frame my remarks with these questions as we commence our months-long exploration of the fifth source of the Unitarian Universalist Association, humanistic teachings which console us to heed the guidance of reason and the results of science, and warn us against idolatries of the mind and spirit. Humanism, how do you define it? It is one of those terms that scholars like to call contested. Many people use it. There is little agreement on what it means. William Murray, his friends called him Bill, the late president of Meadville Lombard Theological School and a prominent humanist, liked to tell an anecdote about an encounter he had with one of his neighbors. I suppose that neighbor was a casual acquaintance, though Bill never specified when he told the story, because he didn't seem to know much about Bill. I imagine them talking in a passing manner, the way you do when people you live near but do not really know. Brief snatches of conversation in an elevator after repeated encounters, or on the street as you drag out the trash. Anyway, the story went that one day Bill's neighbor approached him quite puzzled. She inquired of how on earth could Bill both be a minister and a humanist. I thought humanism was a secular ideology, yet you talk about being a religious humanist. I don't get it. Does that just mean you're an atheist who goes to church? Bill more or less wrote an entire book attempting to answer the question. Like most other Unitarian Universalists, he made a distinction between secular and religious humanism. Crudely, the difference between the two is exactly what Bill's neighbor discerned. Religious humanists belong to or participate in a religious community, while secular humanists do not. In both cases, such humanists agree with Greg Epstein that it is possible to be good without God. My own gloss returns us to the aesthetic emphasis of today's service. Humanists, religious or secular, believe that beauty comes from nowhere but here. Voices tremble, sound waves traveling through air's thickness from vocal cord to eardrum. Pianos hammer on string, breath pushing across saxophone ring, and the tambourines shake. Each is an expression of the human imagination. Each begins in the mind and ends in body's motion. Even this suggests a certain false dichotomy, for many a humanist believes that the mind and body are one. There is no supernatural realm, no God, no transcendental referent, nothing but this world in which we live and in which we bring beauty into. Such is a view not held by all humanists. Later this month, I will complicate the tradition and touch upon its varieties. But for now, let us stick with humanism as the belief that beauty comes from nowhere but here. It is a sentiment caught in Szymborska's words, nothing to itself from me as well. It truly turned itself inside out. Where did I find myself? From head to toe among the planets, not even remembering how it was for me not to be. There is nothing supernatural from which we come. There is nothing supernatural to which we return. There is only the infinite nothing, which is really the infinite everything, from which we are born and to which we return. Stars turn to dust, turn to us, turn to stars. And beauty which we offer in sound and silence in between. We arrive now at our next song, an expression of beauty, the product of human imaginings interpreted and brought into being through the efforts of Mark and the choir. Building bridges, gestures simply to the great humanistic hope that all of our voices and all of our visions will be enough to bring more beauty into the world and bridge the things that divide us so that we can recognize that fundamental truth, whispered through the ages and so vital to our future. We are more alike than we are different. There is more that connects us than separates us.
Building bridges between our divisions, I reach out to you. Will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions, friends, we could make such sweet harmony. Building bridges between our divisions, I reach out to you, reach out to me. With all of our voices and all of our visions, with all of our voices such sweet on our visions, building bridges such sweet our divisions. I reach out to you as you reach out to me, with all of our voices and all of our visions, with all of our voices such sweet on our visions, building bridges such sweet our divisions. I reach out to
The folk musician Pete Seeger had a favorite song. It was "My Life Flows On, an Endless Song." Do you know it? Or him? He was enormously popular in the middle of the 20th century. My parents are huge fans. I grew up listening to his music and his stories. Seeger was also a Unitarian Universalist and a religious humanist. Once, when asked about his understanding of both traditions, he replied with this verse: "All people that on earth do dwell, sing out for peace between heaven and hell, between east and west and low and high, sing peace on earth and sea and sky." Peace on earth and sea and sky. Seeger's response encapsulates another aspect of humanism that is often reflected in song: the belief that we should work for peace and strive for justice. The verse offers no promise that such hopes shall be achieved. Instead, it simply enjoins us to sing out for peace. I might interpret these words as an expression of a desire to bring more beauty into the world as we work for peace. It suggests of music as a way to peace, as music as a transformative, as something that can bring us together. Reflecting on what happened when he led an audience in song, Seeger put it this way: "We all go to different churches or no churches. We have different favorite foods, different ways of making love, different ways of doing all sorts of things. But there we're all singing together. Gives you hope." As it appears in our gray hymnal, "My Life Flows On, an Endless Song" is a song of human hope. The version we sing was popularized in the 1950s by Seeger as a song of defiance in the face of Senator Joseph McCarthy. The name might be familiar to some sort of you. He was sort of Donald Trump before there was a Donald Trump. In fact, there's a direct line to be traced from McCarthy to Trump. Both had the same lawyer, a man named Roy Cohn, who spent the first half of the 1950s publicly accusing people of being members of the Communist Party in an effort to both destroy the organization and the left, especially the labor movement in the United States. Many of Seeger's friends went to jail during this time for refusing to cooperate with the legal system after federal and state legislation was passed that essentially outlawed the Communist Party. Many ministers in our traditions likewise spoke out against the persecution of party members. Senior Fritchman, then serving as the senior minister of the First Unitarian Church of Los Angeles, was even called before Congress for his opposition to the federal government's actions, which he named as an unacceptable effort to define what are dangerous thoughts. Like Seeger, Fritchman was a religious humanist. He very much believed that whatever good there is to be found in this world, or whatever good there is to be found, is found in this world. Whatever beauty there is named as beauty by us humans, not by some outside and unseen agency. The two were friends, and Seeger partially credited Fritchman with his Unitarianism. Seeger saying "My life flows on in endless song" widely as an expression of his desire to give courage to those who struggled against McCarthy. It had begun as a Christian hymn, but was then revised to better fit the political moment and the humanist tradition. The third verse was written by Doris Plen, who taught Seeger the song. It reads, "When tyrants tremble, sick with fear, and hear their death knell ringing, when friends rejoice both far and near, how can I keep from singing? In prison cell and dungeon vile, our thoughts to them go winging. When friends by shame are undefiled, how can I keep from singing?" You might note that these final lyrics, promise no ultimate victory. The most they offer is the sound of the end of tyranny, the possibility that human imaginings for justice will be transformed into earthly betterment. And that too bespeaks the spirit of humanism. No permanent millennium of peace, but rather the joy and the perennial struggle to make the world a more beautiful place. And now, here is Kenneth Gayle's rendition.
My life flows on in endless song above earth's lamentation. I hear the real, though far off hymn that hails the new creation. can I keep from singing? What though the tempest round me roars? I know the truth it liveth. What though the darkness round me close? Songs in the night it giveth. No storm can shake my inmost calm, while to that rock I'm clinging. Since love prevails in heaven and earth, how can I keep from singing? When tyrants tremble as they hear the bells of freedom ringing, when friends rejoice both far and near, how can I keep from singing? To prison cell and dungeon vile, our thoughts to them are winging, when friend by shame are undefiled, how can I keep from singing? How can I keep from singing? How can I keep from singing?
Beauty comes from nowhere but here. I conclude my textual counterpoint to our music with a few words about the relationship between humanism and naturalism. It is a relationship celebrated in Blue Boat Home, our penultimate song. Blue Boat Home bespeaks of that simple truth. We humans are all residents on the same muddy blue ball of a planet. We live nowhere but here. We drift through the universe, our way illuminated by the stars together. All that takes place, all that we imagine, all that stems from human activity begins here, on this wonderful orb we, like our ancestors, inhabit. Religious humanism suggests that this simple truth should be greeted with the same sense of awe and wonder that theists would suggest we offer to God. The religious humanist and biologist Ursula Goodenough summarized this perspective as expressing itself as solemn gratitude that we exist at all, share reverence for how life works, and acknowledge a deep and complex imperative that life continue. Her work, like that of many other humanists, calls for us to celebrate the beauty and the mystery that has been uncovered through science. Do you ever do that? Marvel at the mystery that scientific understanding has revealed? I do. I do when I contemplate my own brief span, my children, my friends, my family, all of the beautiful beings, the animals, the flowers, the fungi that I have encountered and found slightly greater in their beauty through the pursuit of human knowledge. Such an awareness is available to all of us. Indeed, having such an awareness is at least partially what it means to be human. Goodenough describes the earth as a planet shimmering with awareness. Humanism calls for us to describe that awareness, to seek to understand it as a product of natural processes, that it comes from nowhere but here. For the humanist, this sentiment can open us to what we might even name the holy, or call the world, or lead us to call the world what it is, a blessing, an unasked for grace. Szymborska suggested that blessing is the emergence from non-conscious matter into life, a relief from non-space in the form of a swaying birch. For Goodenough, it is the possibility of becoming lost in something much larger than my daily self, the possibility of transcending my daily life. Music offers us that possibility. In the human bringing of beauty from nowhere but here, we open ourselves to the natural blessings of the world, blessings that we carry in our hearts, that we find in our minds, and that surround us in the greenery of trees, the grayness of skies, the smoothness of stones, and yes, in the sounds and spaces between the sounds of songs. With that, we offer you Blue Boat Home.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Our benediction comes not from my words or my voice, but through the blessing of this final song.
May your life be as a song, resounding with the dawn, to sing awake the light and softly serenade the stars, ever dancing circles in the night. May your life be as a song, resounding with the dawn, to sing awake the light and softly serenade the stars, ever dancing circles in the night. May your life be as a song, resounding with the dawn, to sing awake the light and softly serenade the stars, ever dancing circles in the night, ever dancing circles in the night, ever dancing circles in the night, ever dancing circles in the night.
Please join us in thanking Doreen Lee and music director Mark Vogel. He was joined by traveler, pianists Teruhiko Toda and James Westfall, the Sanctuary Choir, and special guest soloist Kenneth Gayle. For those of you who may be new to this congregation or the online services, let us say a few words about Unitarian Universalism. Unitarian Universalism is a faith where you can bring your whole self, your full identity, your questioning mind, your expansive heart. As Unitarian Universalists, we join together on a journey that honors everywhere we've been before. Together, we create a force more powerful than one person or one belief system. Our beliefs are diverse and inclusive. Rather than a creed, we share a covenant based on a set of 7 principles. These include the free and responsible search for truth and meaning, the inherent worth and dignity of every person, and the knowledge that we are part of an interconnected web of all existence that calls us to honor the earth and all creatures. Thank you for being with us today.
There are many groups meeting online. Please go to firstuuhouston.org to check them all out. Here are just a few of the highlights. 2 opportunities to chat after the online service are the coffee half hour at 11:30 and the discussion circle at noon. They'll be asking, what stories do you have about amazing or meaningful events in your life? There are also 2 opportunities to discuss good books early in the week. Monday at 7, the Women's Book Club will talk about The Hare with the Amber Eyes, and Wednesday at 7 is the UU Bible Study of the Gospels. Thursday at 7, you can either pick and strum along with the string band or join the men's group for supportive, interesting discussion. Young adults have a great place for support, sharing, and conversation. It happens again this Friday at 3 o'clock. Many of the topics for upcoming discussion groups are on our website, firstuuhouston.org/online-group-meetings. Visit there for more details and to sign up. And remember, all times shown are Central Daylight Time.